Hey, this is Joe from SoFly, and in this video, we are going to export WooCommerce orders one by one using WP All Export. So every time a new order is created, our export is going to run and export just that one order. So to get started, we'll go down here to All Export and select New Export. And then from the pull down, we'll go and select WooCommerce Orders. Now we have some filtering options over here. So if we wanted to filter these and, for example, export just orders that were created, in the last month or the last week, or orders from the state of California, or orders with a certain product, this is how we would set that up. And we can create any combination of filters using any data in our order, from the person who made the order, from the order items, anything related to any of that. We can create and combine any number of filters to decide exactly what gets included in the export. If you're interested in this, check out our YouTube channel or our documentation at wpallimport.com. We have a lot of articles on how to do this. In this video, we're just going to export any of the orders that are completed. And then we'll click here, customize the export file to take us to this page where we drag and drop to set up exactly what our export is going to look like. Now here on the left, this is our export. And then here on the right, this is all of our available data. The data in WordPress inside of WooCommerce that we can drag and drop to create our export. So for example, I can take the order total, drag it over here, preview, and there's my order total. I can rearrange these. I can click in here to change the column name. And if I wanted to, can drag outside of the box to get rid of the column. And there we go. All right, now we have all of our order data right over here, and then we have all of our customer data available to drag and drop. So we have, for example, the billing first name and the billing last name. We have our billing address, our shipping address. We have all of our order item information over here. And this is all of the data that's attached to the actual product that was purchased. We have our product data, like pricing, the sales, etc. We have our product taxonomies, and then any custom fields associated with those products. So for example, if we're using a WooCommerce extension that attaches some sort of data in a custom field, that's going to show up right over here. We have our product attributes, like the color and the size, and some advanced data down here, which you might find useful, like weight, length, width, height, like the dimensions of the product, download limits, like just, things that are just generally not used very often. You'll find down here in the advanced section. Taxes and shipping, all of that's in here, fees and discounts, and then our notes that are associated with the order. Right, so that's all of the information that you can drag and drop. You can hunt and peck in here, or you can go over to add field, and you can just search like this. So we'll add our product name, save that, preview, and there we go. That's everything that we've set up in our export, right? Now you'll notice here that this order is showing up 2 times. It's on 2 separate rows, and that's because this person has purchased 2 order items. So we have a few options here. We can choose to display each product in its own row. This is enabled by default. If we disable this, now each row is just going to have 1 order, and then each product will have its own column. You can also choose to disable this one, fill in empty columns. So with this setting, each order is still going to be on its own row over here. And then we just have an extra row with this extra order data not filled in for each product, right? So this person ordered 1 product. This person ordered 2 products. This is the first product. That's the second. That's how that works. And then over here, you have the separator. So for a CSV, the default separator is obviously going to be a comma, right? CSV, comma, separated values. You can change this to whatever you need for your export. Now, there's some other interesting features here that we have in WPL export that are available to you, such as the first name and the last name. And this is called a custom export field. So let's say we wanted to combine first name and last name. The way we would do that is we'd go over here to add field. Then we'd select custom export field. Over here to the customer, drag in the first name, drag in the last name, give it a space, call it name, and save it. Preview. There you go. So now we can get rid of these. And it's useful for just little stuff too, right? Like, for example, check out order total. No $, right? Let's say I want the $sign in there. So we can go over here, make a custom export field, go up here to order, drag in order total, and we can even put in static text, right? So then we have order total with a $sign. And there we go. And you see here we have this little extra $sign in there because we've unchecked fill in empty columns. So we can check that again. And now it's all filled in properly. And the last thing that I want to go over is PHP custom functions. So let's just do a quick demo. We'll go over here. And let's say we want to change our order status. So by default, the order status is going to be WC-completed, right? Because that's how WooCommerce stores its order status in the database. But let's say I want something a little bit more human readable. So what I can do is I can go in here to order status, and I can export the value returned by a PHP function. So we'll go over here, and then I have my function over here, change order status. So change order status. And what this is going to do is it's going to take the value, which in this case is WC completed, right? And it's going to pass it in here to my function, change order status. And then it's going to use str replace, and it's going to look for the string WC completed, and then it's going to replace it with processed. So let's save that and preview. And that's my new order status. Now, if I wanted to, I could make my function a little bit more complicated, and I could add support for the other order statuses that are in WooCommerce. But in this case, WC completed is good enough for me. We just need that one status in here to be changed. So we'll save that. Okay, so down here in export type, this is where we decide what kind of file we want to export. So our options for spreadsheets are CSVs or Excel. And for Excel, we have two different file format options. They're pretty much the same, but maybe you have some specific requirement. You can select the one that you need. And then over here, we have our XML feeds. So we have our simple XML feed where we just drag and drop to create our XML. Then in advanced options, we can change the root XML element and the single XML element. You know, for example, it would be orders and then order. And then we just drag and drop these, and these would all be our XML elements. And we have some CData options over here. Now, this is an easy way to make an XML file, but it doesn't give you a ton of flexibility. So if you have a really specific XML specification that you need to work with, you'll go down here and you'll select custom XML feed. And then here you can define exactly what you want your feed to look like. You can drag data in, you can rename it. So you can get really in-depth into your XML export. You can do things like put the order ID and an element parameter, whatever you need to do, right? Using our XML editor and our custom XML feeds. Now there's a lot to go over for this. So we have separate videos and documentation for custom XML. We also have documentation over here directly within the user interface that you can look at. Check out our YouTube channel, check out our documentation if you want to learn more about this. In this case, we're going to stick with a simple CSV export that we set up over here. All right, so let's continue. And this is where the magic happens. So we have our scheduling options. So if we wanted to set this up to run on the schedule, you know, for example, every day or every month, this is where you can do that. But in this case, what we're doing is we are going to export each WooCommerce order in real time as they are completed. So we enable that. And now every time that a new order is completed, this export is going to run. So let's confirm and run our export. And this is just going to export one order, right? This is basically a test. So every time this export runs, we're going to get this. And this is going to have the data from our most recent order. Now, what happens next? Well, that's up to you, right? If you're setting up this kind of an export, you probably have something in mind about what you want to do. And you can probably do that with Zapier. So the way Zapier works is you create what they call a zap, basically a task that runs automatically or with some action that you configure. And you hook it up to your site here with WPL export. And then every time this export finishes running, it contacts Zapier, sends it the data, and your data is processed over there. Now with Zapier, there's like over 1,000 apps that they integrate with. So you can do some pretty interesting stuff like send emails, get the data into Google Sheets, add it to Dropbox, push notifications. You can actually even integrate with other APIs pretty easily, so without having to write any code. So there's just a huge range of things you can do with Zapier, and we have some people doing some pretty interesting stuff. Now you can also just write your own code, and you can use our action reference and hook into the action that fires whenever an export completes, and then have your code run, grab the file from WPL export, process it in some way, send the data somewhere, whatever your code needs to do. So we have documentation on Zapier over here. Click this link. And then this explains exactly how to use Zapier. And then over here, we have our API documentation. And this explains how to use WPL export. This is the PMXE after export hook. So this is going to fire every single time that an export is completed. So let's give this a test. Let's create a new order. We'll go to add order. The status is going to be completed because that export is actually only going to fire if the order status is completed, right? If a new order is created, but it's still processing, it's not until the status changes to completed that that export is actually going to run. We'll just leave this with our guest customer over here. We'll add an item. Let's look for a shirt. And we'll add that. Okay. And we'll create our order. Now let's go back to WPL export. And we've had two records exported, our test and the new one that just ran. So let's go ahead and let's download our export here with the CSV button. Open that up. And there we go. There is our new export that has just completed. So that is all it takes to export WooCommerce orders in real time using WPL export. Make sure to check out our YouTube channel. Check out the videos on Zapier. That's probably what you're going to be using to set up your integration after you set up an export like this. Very useful stuff. All right. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you soon.